Hello. Welcome back to Radio Free Gastonia, the internet's #1 source for unreliable, just good enough emergency historical content. I'm your server for tonight, Alex Safe Cummings. So, last time we tuned in, we were talking about World War II and the outcome of that, just extremely epic conflict, which was punctuated by the possibly unnecessary annihilation of many civilians in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That is a debate for another day. What we do know is that it happened. And everything that we're going to talk about for the rest of this course, and really probably for the rest of our lives, is in many ways shaped by the decision by the United States to use its newly developed atomic weapons against Japanese civilians to, in theory, end World War II. There are other motivations involved. We'll get into that. So I was just thinking about this image of school children in the United States in the 1950s putting on gas masks as part of a training for a potential nuclear attack. We've all heard of duck and cover, hide under your little wooden school desk, and that'll save you from a Soviet nuclear attack. We've seen the movies or the weird clips of the house in the middle, this sort of pseudo PSA that is trying to encourage Americans to be tidy and neat, so that their little suburban house doesn't get annihilated. Because if you are neat and clean, so fresh and so clean, your house won't be destroyed by an atomic bomb. That's a fact. You can take it to the bank. Now, all of this is kind of recognizable as a psychological impulse to insulate oneself against a reality that is too difficult to bear. The sense that at any moment you might be talking to your coworker at the water cooler about the latest I Love Lucy episode, or you might be at the post office, or you might be changing your kid's diaper, and then boom, the whole world ceases to exist just because some inscrutable, incomprehensible conflict happened between the Soviets and the US or China, or maybe there was a technical glitch. Basically all of human life was on the line 24 hours a day, and everybody knew that on some level. It still is. We still have nuclear weapons. Something terrible could happen, but we don't think about it all the time the way that people in the late 1940s or 50s or early 1960s might have thought about it. And that makes me think of something that a lot of students today, younger people, will be familiar with, which are active shooter trainings, right? Active shooter drills in schools. The idea that in the absence of any ability to do anything about the fact that there are more guns in America than people, and that psychos go and kill little innocent children left and right almost weekly, we can't do anything about that, but we can do an active shooter training to make sure that kids know, and teachers and school staff, principals, etc., what to do when Herr Psycho comes to your school. It reeks a little bit of duck and cover. So today's whole discussion is about the theme of more fun in the free world. That's a little bit of a joke, but it's about the aftermath of World War II and the early days of the Cold War and the new suburban post-war America. With the dropping of the bombs, it was kind of I don't know, I feel like the American government and Harry Truman and everybody were kind of we bought this new sports car. It would be a shame to leave it in the garage and not take it for a ride. Let's see. That would be crazy to buy a Lamborghini and never take it for a ride. I feel to some extent that's how they thought about the atomic bomb. And they took it for 2 rides. in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, whatever we judge about that decision, it unleashed a whole new world, and everybody knew it. I think pretty quickly. The Germans have been trying to work on an atomic bomb, but it kind of faltered. The Soviets definitely knew what we were up to, and were trying to work on it too. But it just, you have this situation where there's this new awesome power, and these set of complex choices, but the implications of it are inescapable. However you sort through the game theory or the like moral questions, there are some inescapable implications here, which is that like one country in the world has the ability to wipe out huge populations at the push of a button, and this technology is only going to get more powerful, and it did by the late 40s, early 50s. The ability to maybe not destroy all life on Earth, but definitely destroy most human life on Earth, was in the hands of fallible men. And so that creates an atmosphere of fear for obvious reasons. Any sensible person would be afraid. But it also creates a persecuting frenzy. After World War II, after the bomb, there's this intense effort to sort of root out conspiracies or infiltrators in the U.S. federal government. This is often called the Red Scare. This not only affects people who work for the federal government, but teachers, people in the entertainment industry, trying to find communists. But it is especially important in terms of like the state and defense departments. The idea that communist spies have infiltrated there to get our nuclear secrets. There's a thing called the Lavender Scare, where there's a lot of persecution of queer or allegedly queer employees of the federal government who might be susceptible to blackmail because of their gender or sexual identity, that there might be a liability. And so a lot of people got fired because the authorities thought that they might be blackmailed by Soviet or other communist sort of agents. This leads to McCarthyism, which we're going to talk about a lot more, and the execution of Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, who were accused of passing nuclear secrets to the Soviets. This is all happening, though, in the context of the new geopolitical environment after World War II. The U.S. and the Soviet Union had been allies in the war. In fact, I mean, we could not have won the war, probably, if it not for like many Soviet soldiers dying and fighting on the Eastern Front in the Eastern Front, in World War II. But now, after the war, we're enemies, and it's very clear how things are going to shape up. In Washington, there's this idea of containment that the Harry Truman administration puts forward, that we recognize we can't really roll back the communist expansion into Eastern Europe. The fact that like countries like Hungary, Poland, Romania are they're not part of the Soviet Union, but they're within the fold of the communist sphere. We really can't stop that, but we can try to contain it. We can try to like put a little biodome, a little box over the Soviets and communism. We get a rude awakening on that concept when China, quote unquote, goes communist. But still, the idea is that like this is like a cancer. If we can keep it to just this area so it doesn't expand, then like that's our policy. That's our plan. This is American elites' idea of how to deal with the Soviets.